My name is Pam Keith. I'm a Democratic candidate for Florida's 18th Congressional District. I started my career as a naval officer. Right out of law school, I joined the U.S. Navy to serve as a Navy judge advocate. I served in Norfolk, Virginia. I served 2 years deployed with our troops in the Middle East and another year in Washington in cybersecurity. After that, I went into private practice and learned how to be a traditional labor attorney. I am really pleased that I had the experience of collective bargaining, negotiating, and litigating. It makes me a very strong advocate, but more than that, it gave me the skill set to find win-win solutions and creative ideas to resolve problems. I'm the daughter of a U.S. diplomat. I've lived all over the world. In fact, I was born overseas, and my family taught me the importance of projecting American values overseas. Building strong allied relationships all over the world is critical to our national security, and I understand that both components are important, diplomacy and a strong military. I believe that this country has so much potential, and the people in it have a right to a great life. Everybody wants the same thing, an opportunity for their families to succeed, and a country in which they can pursue their own values and religion, and contribute to the fabric of a diverse, inclusive, creative, and intrepid country. I'm incredibly proud to be an American, and I very much look forward to being the representative of Florida's 18th Congressional District. I absolutely believe that we need comprehensive immigration reform. With respect to Dreamers, we must have a permanent, legal, legislative solution to their status so that they can remain in the only country that most of them have ever known and continue to contribute both to our economy and to our culture. I fully support Dreamers, and I believe that they have a right to stay here. As far as the rest of our immigration, we do not have to trade off national security in exchange for the values that we hold dear. America is a country of immigrants. Immigration is something that makes us stronger, not weaker. It makes us stronger by the innovation that is brought to our shores and by the intrepid, hardworking, salt-of-the-earth people who come here and contribute to our labor force. We don't know what immigrants contribute when they get here. We understand what they contribute when we look back 50 years or 100 years. I'm so grateful for the immigrants who came from Ireland and Japan, from our African shores, from all over Europe and from all over South America. They've contributed in so many ways, but right now we have a system that is cumbersome, that is unfair, that has a long, long process, and quite often is steeped in values that are not reflective of the America that we truly want to be. National security is not just about the southern border. It has to be about our ports of call. It has to be about our riverine environments. It has to be about the transport of large amounts of drugs and contraband in 18-wheelers, both from the north and the south. So if we're going to talk about national security, then we need to talk about that, not just about keeping out a certain group of people that some folks see as undesirable. I fully support a ban on assault weapons, high-capacity magazines, bump stocks, and other kinds of ghost guns, which are sold in parts and are assembled at home so that they're untraceable. I also want to say that this is a small slice of our gun problem. The problem with our background check process is it's done by the wrong entity. We have gun sellers doing background checks, and when it comes to concealed carry permits, it's done by the Secretary of Agriculture's office. That's the wrong place. I support legislation that requires all gun owners to carry liability insurance, much like all drivers carry liability insurance. That liability insurance process is the right place to do a background check, because at that point you're looking beyond convictions, you're looking for red flags, and more importantly, you're doing a scientific assessment of the risk posed by both the gun owner and the gun they're seeking to possess. That is the right way to do it. And when you have liability insurance in the process, you drive safer gun ownership behavior by the desire to keep your premiums low, and you have financial backing to that gun owner so that whatever is done with that gun, the victim of gun violence is not the one that bears the cost. We know exactly how liability insurance works. Each and every one of us carries that when we drive so that we are less of a risk to the people around us, and that same process should be applied to owning guns. The first thing we have to admit is that this latest GOP tax cut was a tax scam. What it did was dramatically reduce revenue at a time when we have such strains on our budget. The first thing we must do is honor our obligations to Medicare and Social Security. We put cash into Social Security. That cash was spent by the government, and the government wrote back to the Social Security Trust an IOU. Well, that IOU is coming due, and by cutting the revenue that would be used to pay that IOU, we have left our seniors in a lurch. I totally believe that that tax cut has to be rolled back. It didn't make sense when it was passed, and it is leaving us in a budgetary hole. Our deficit has already exploded by $1 trillion under this administration, and we simply cannot afford to have to borrow from others to pay our Social Security and other obligations. Not only do we have obligations under Social Security and Medicare, but we also have obligations in terms of major infrastructure projects, including the ones that apply to the cleaning of the water out of Lake Okeechobee and moving it into the Everglades where it belongs and keeping it out of the St. Lucie River where it does not belong. We do have a comprehensive plan to restore our Everglades, and that plan requires $1 billion of federal spending, which we are not going to see if we continue down this road of cutting federal revenue for the benefit of the wealthy and the 1%. Florida 18 is a diverse district full of intrepid, wonderful people who want the best for themselves and their families. But they understand that doing the same thing over and over is not going to get a different result. Right now, we know that our politics is dominated by people who are elected by voters, but respond principally to donors, lobbyists, and corporate interests. And that is why there is such a disconnect between what is happening in Washington and what is happening right here. Florida 18 deserves a representative who is grounded in the needs of the people, who understands and values the work that they put in every day to make the kind of community that they truly want. Florida needs a fighter, not just someone that's going to go to Washington and appease this administration or any other. We understand that this country is moving in the wrong direction and that new leadership is required. But if you want a different outcome, you have to go a different way. And that is why new voices, intrepid leaders, and people who respect voters is what we need to send to Washington. My name is Pam Keeve. I'm a veteran, I'm a patriot, I'm an American, and I'm an advocate. And I'm running to represent you in a way that you will be proud of. To learn more about this people-powered campaign, go to www.electpamkeeve.com.